Hello, and I have a big kid here today. He's I'm looking at him on the Zoom. He's got all the stuff in the background. Billy, what is all that? That's Batman
Well, see,
and what is it? You've got lots of stuff there.
well, I grew up on superheroes. Batman was my one of my favorites because he didn't need superpowers. So I watched Batman and Superman back in the day, and it never left. It was one of those things that once it got in me, it never left. So I'm a huge nerd. It's in my DNA. If you look my DNA up, you'll see nerd in there. So yeah, it just never left.
So tell me, explain something to me. Not being
Yes.
familiar with Batman as probably you are. Where did the voice come from all of a sudden?
You know,
Did he
uh,
get like a larynx
I think
problem? I don't know.
I don't know. I think he probably drank something and the glass broke and he's gargling glass as he's speaking because it sounds like his throat's being chopped up. I think Christian just took a chance to differentiate Bruce Wayne and
And Batman.
Batman, and I think he wanted something drastic, but sometimes it hit the mark and sometimes it didn't. To me, I always thought one of the best Batman Bruce Waynes would have been Clint Eastwood. His
That's
whole
interesting. Yeah.
because he wasn't loud, but you could tell in his voice you didn't want to take him off, which I think Batman, especially through the years, would have been more reserved. So you
Right.
wouldn't have
Right.
talked like this.
I mean, he definitely had a rasp in his voice. That whole.
Yeah, but it because for me, Batman, with my history on the character, that was more of who he was. Bruce Wayne was the mask. Batman was who he became once his parents, got taken out in front of him. So his personality is dark, it's deep. He's got this vengeance that he's trying to unleash upon criminals. So I think it places him in a dark atmosphere. It makes him a little bit more serious when he talks.
Mm.
But when he's Bruce Wayne, it's happy go lucky because he's got to play the role. I'm a billionaire playboy. I got women and cars and money to spend. He's got to become a completely different person to be believable, not to be the same one.
Right.
So
So
yeah,
let's talk about Billy here because I want to.
yes.
You started as a stunt guy. What got you into stunts? Let's just start
Oh,
with that.
stunts. I actually fell into stunts. My
Literally.
original, yeah, my original, which a lot of stunt people do, mind you, they don't pursue it. A lot of just kind of happen into it. I was doing music at the time, and I was signed to an independent label. So things got kind of put on ice because of some things the label was going through. And I started training because I've trained martial arts pretty much all my life. And I would run into actors, train actors, and eventually was like, well, come to the set. I go to the set and I meet certain people on set. Oh, that's the guy that taught me how to do this kick or this punch. And hey, can you take a fall? Yeah, I can fall down. Can you put this costume on and let's go to work? So it kind of happened because of my relationship with some actors that I knew, and it just evolved from there. And it wasn't a super passion at first. I always, was curious about it, but because music was the center of my life at that time, it was like, oh, it's something I could get into. And once it came back around, I dove back in. And whether you know or not, stunts is not one of the most inviting industries, no matter who you are. You gotta get past the lions at the gate, and you might spin your wheels for a few years before they have open arms. It's an industry where you really have to have confidence and trust in the people around you because as a stunt person, it's about safety. As a coordinator, you want to make sure the male or the female can deliver, but at the same time, everybody can go home without their limbs intact. So if you're called by a stunt coordinator, you gotta kind of step up and not only do your job and nail it, but do it to a level of satisfaction and safety that makes the stunt coordinator go, yeah, I want to use that male or that female again. So yeah, I fell into it and then just grew to love it because again, I'm a big kid. So now I'm getting paid to do all the stuff I did as a kid anyway, falling off of things and running around with my pea shooters, pew, 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 putting on capes. And it was like, oh, so I just kind of became a big adult kid you know, in my 30s and 40s.
You know, it's funny because there is the Stunt Association in England, which is very different for structure. You have to literally test for different things like falls and fire gags
Yeah.
and you're literally underwater sequences. You have to go and do a test. Is it is that as rigorous here? Do you have to do those things? Or they just say, "Can you do this? Can you swim? We'll put you underwater."
That oh, that's a good question because no, the short answer is no. Because when I decided to really push and pursue stunts at the time, so you're looking at for me the mid '90s is when the bug started coming in. There were not a lot of places automatically for you to go. You couldn't just open up the phone book and go stunt school 1, stunt school 2, stunt school 3. You just kind of had to meet a stunt person, find out where the stunt people hung out, where they trained, and then once you meet them, you start talking about the kind of skill sets because you couldn't find books on it. Stunt people didn't write books, and part of that was because it was an industry thing, and part of it was I'm not giving up my secrets as a stunt coordinator, and you that's what that slowness and that trust also comes from. So there was never really an oversight committee going, okay, you need to get a certificate in scuba diving, you need to get a certificate in sword fighting, you need to get a certificate in high dives, because the specialty kind of came up when it came up. So, for instance, if you were a diver or you were a former football player, and the audition or the part came that needed a specialty like a diver, then okay, this guy's a diver, bring him in. Okay, let me see what you can do. They would test you on the day, you know, or hopefully get a reel from you to see if you could actually do what you claim you could do. So a lot of people's backgrounds put them in the position to be qualified for the job that they end up getting. So
Have you ever gone into a job and said, "Yeah, I can do that, no problem"? Because actors do that all the time. They're like, "Oh, can you horseback ride? Oh, yeah, sure. Can you roller skate? Yeah, sure." They just do it to get the job. And by the time they get the job, they're like, "Oh, of course, I've got to better try and roller skate because I just got this job." Did that ever
I,
happen in the stunt world or not?
I know it does, because the times that I've worn the stunt coordinator hat, I've had people come in that claim they had a martial arts background, and you okay, let me see something, and because you didn't get a reel or anything, you in a live audition, and they start moving, and you're like, you're not a martial artist, and they go, no, you're a dancer, right? Like, yeah, myself. The answer is
Yeah, I'm a dancer.
yeah. I've never gotten a call to do something that I had never done. And then because as a stunt person, you don't want to make a claim that you could do something, and then when you put on the spot, it's like, yeah, no, you can't, because the word gets around, that no, he can't do this or she can't do that.
Right.
But with that being said, I worked on Angie Tribeca, as Dion Cole's stunt double on the show. And the first call I give for the show was about a pogo stick. Can you use a pogo stick? And I'm thinking to myself, I haven't been on a pogo stick since I was like maybe 7 years old, right? And I'm like, but so like I said before, because I've done it, I'm not going to claim I can. I haven't done it. So now I have to go. I got to go find a pogo stick because this thing works in about the next 3 days and get the rust off. So I go get this pogo stick that comes up to about my chest, right? And I'm okay. I got 10 in a row. I got 20. Okay, I can do this. I got up to 100. Fine. So the day comes. I get to set. I meet the coordinator face to face, and he goes, "Well, let me see what you can really do with this pogo stick." I'm like, "Okay, cool, cool," because I got my confidence, over the last couple of days. He brings me this Olympic level pogo stick that's taller than I am. So I'm thinking, oh, okay. So I get the pogo stick. The first bounce, I mean, this thing throws you so high up in the air, it threw my hair back. I'm like, I wouldn't expect that. So all of a sudden, I'm bombing on the first jump. And I'm like, hold on, I got it. It's just I wasn't expecting this thing to be so strong. So I get on it and I'm bouncing. So and I got the groove back. I could bounce, 100 times. But now the gag is we're supposed to jump forward and go through a crowd of people as they separate like the Red Sea, right? That's the hard part with a pogo stick because you can't always control where it comes down. So to try to go from point A to point B in a straight line, it takes you taking your time. But that was one of the rare times where I got called to do something that I hadn't done in 100 years, and felt like, oh, I better brush up. I got to brush up. So, but yeah,
I could just see you on a pogo stick going through a group of people.
it was hilarious. It was hilarious.
What was it? So, what was your first thing you ever did? I think Backlash was that, wasn't it?
Actually, yeah, Backlash. Kevin Levrone was making his foray from bodybuilding into acting, and I had met with the producers prior to working on that project. And I think Ernie Reyes came in, Andy Ching, who was part of Jackie Chan's stunt team, was a coordinator on that project. And I came in, and it's like, yeah, that was the project that made me actually fall all the way in love with doing stunts, because I had so much fun on set. It's like I get to do this stuff, and they pay you at the same time.
What did you actually have to do on that?
On that one, it was let's see, I actually played a couple of parts. Uh, I was one of the agents in the beginning of the movie that has to arrest Bass Rutten, and I'm never going to forget that scene because I tore a button off of his jacket because production didn't have the money to costume everybody, so he wore one of his own jackets, and I tore the button off, and we're sitting there laughing like, oh, this is one of the buttons in frame too, huh? Okay, Bass, don't hit me, you know. And then I was also, there's another scene later in the movie where these agents like ninjas start infiltrating the house that Danielle Bergio from The Matrix is actually starring in, one of her first starring roles. Um, I'm actually the vast majority of the ninjas used in that scene. So because they didn't have enough of us for the day, there ended up being like 3 of us, and they needed like 7, 8 ninjas.
So
So
you kept changing because ninjas get covered from head to foot, right?
yeah, so it didn't have to worry about changing clothes, but I got to come through the window. I got to come from the attic. I got to chase her out the house. So I am pretty much over half the ninjas you see in that particular sequence. I have to take the fall into the table. I got to get shot by her, and then still chase her out the house and deliver dialogue at the same time. So yeah, that was the first one, being multiple man on the same shoot, which happened more than once.
A lot of people don't realize that a lot of stunt people actually get to do small parts in the movies because they get to do that, and then they get knocked over. So producers actually hire them for 2 reasons. Is that kind of what you found? Is that how it worked for you?
In the beginning, yeah, because like I said, during the mid '90s, when I was getting interested, stunt people had a tendency then to want to graduate from being a stunt person and being a stunt double into the limelight. Like say Danielle Bergio, because she was the double on The Matrix, and then eventually started moving toward the lead role. So a lot of stunt people during the '90s kind of wanted to do that, and for me, it was the same process because you had idea of being a star. Everybody wants to get to Hollywood and be a star. So at that time, yeah, I want to be the man front and center, and I want to pay my dues and work my way to that spot. So I found a lot of it just kind of got thrown at me. I would be doing a stunt and like, oh yeah, well he's got a line, and I would deliver the line. I was like, okay, and most of the early work I did was 50-50. I might have gone in as an extra, got bumped to a speaking part, had a conversation with the stunt coordinator, and next thing you know, now I am bumped from a extra to a stunt part, and now I got 2 or 3 or at least a line of dialogue. So it grew from there, and more dialogue.